Hello, are we back? I'll give everyone like a second to come back. My computer decided to freeze and YouTube thought that meant I was done streaming, when that is not what happened. You can hear me? Okay, let me get some music going. We'll just play a song for you guys while we wait for people to come back. There's we can listen to Realm of the Dolphin Overlord again. Oh, you know what? Let's listen to this. Can I open this in a new window? Let's see if I can open this in a new window. Play with Windows Media. Why not? No. Oh, for heaven's sake. Play with Winamp. Why the hell not? Hey guys. I can hear you greatly. Oh, that's good. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. Are we back? Sorry about that. I don't know what's wrong here. I don't know why my internet's freaking out. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's give people some time to come back. Speaking of music, thank you for recommending Blind Guardian. Their album about the Silmarillion is great. You're welcome. Oh, what's your problem now, stream? There we go. Just dropped in to say hi. Wish I could stay longer as I'll be busy today. No problem. Your ears? Yeah, sorry about that. Hold on, let me turn it down here. There we go. Sorry, bit of a shit show. I don't know why my laptop decided to completely freak out on me. I don't know what that was about. I don't have anything else open that could like make it be chugging. Let's close this tab, maybe it'll help. Where's close tab? Here we go. Close tab. That triggered my flight to fight response. So sorry about that. I did not know it was going to be that loud. Visions of chests. I mean, I can move us over a little bit. Okay, let's get my thing here going so I can see what I'm doing. Could it be Windows Update? I hope not. That would be so annoying if Windows decided to update while I was busy streaming. I can't really tell if that's the reason. Anyway, I hope not. Be really annoying. Visions of chest. Speaking of Blind Guardian. Part 2, the sequel we waited minutes for. I know, I'm so sorry to like keep you on edge for that long. Windows updates always like, yeah, they always break things. And up until you like restart your computer, they will like continue to make things chug in the background. I don't know why. It's really annoying. Yeah, but you did not mean to the stream crashing. No, it's fine. I had to save. And I guess my laptop was just very against that. It's because, you know what it is? It's because I'm drawing Nyan Neko Sugar Girls. And it was just a little bit too much for my poor laptop to handle. It was too grand for it to properly accept what was going on screen, you know? No, I don't want... Are you sure you want to cancel these downloads and quits? Yes, please. Go away. Good lord. Okay, let's start this one again. Go here and put this back to where it was. There we go. Classic Windows moment. Yeah. Okay, so not everybody is back yet, but I mean, I still have to ink this and color this, so I'm gonna keep going. And apologies to people who kind of shuffle in afterwards. Again, I don't know what was going on. I'm willing to bet, I think it was Jim said, that it's a Windows update or something that's causing it to freak out. Because why try and look for a reasonable solution when we can just like blame Windows instead. It's like, it's all Windows' fault. Of course it is. Like Evangelion, it's decided to self-delete. It couldn't handle Nyaniko Sugar Girls, that's all. Oh jeez, her bust is so big. I'm not used to drawing this much personality. So, like, the actual art, it's like skin tight, but I don't think I want to do that. See, so it's about there. Okay, again, I'm not used to drawing big chests, so let's just see how this goes. This is way out of my comfort zone, but oh well, here we are. I should draw like fan art of Zentreya. That'll help me get better at drawing bigger chests. Just draw like a whole bunch of Zentreya fan art. That's like the one thing about VTubers though. I really like their designs. Like, I really like a lot of VTuber designs. So I want to draw them because I just like the way the characters look and stuff. But as silly as it sounds, there's not that big like an art fandom for VTubers. Like, yes, they get fan art and stuff, but I rarely see like a lot of fan art for certain VTubers. I think Iron Mouse gets a lot, but I don't know. It just feels like there's far less fan art for them than I would expect. Maybe they're mostly on Twitter and that's why I don't see them. I don't know. You know what? I'm not used to drawing chests, so I'm going to go and find some reference. Because I think I saw some the other day. Okay, you know what? I'm closing Windows Explorer. I'm just closing Windows Explorer because that seems to be the problem. CPA face rig when? My friend... let's hope things are still working here because, again, my laptop's freaking out for some reason. My friend actually wants to get into VTuber rigging. And she is like... Okay, there we go. I'll be back. Sorry if there was a hiccup there. I don't know if you guys saw that hiccup or not. I'm closing Windows Explorer because that seems to be what's causing it to crash and hiccup like that. My friend wants to get into VTuber rigging and illustration. So she actually did make me a model that I'm thinking of testing out. Just because, you know, I'm an animator, so of course I like VTubers, I like all that kind of thing, because it is in some weird way a form of animation, right? If you take animation as its most basic definition of being the illusion of life, then VTuber rigs count as animation. So I do want to play around with a VTuber rig, even if I don't think I'll ever be like a VTuber, you know what I mean? Drawing chest. I just want to see. I know there's a very good reference picture. I saw it on Pinterest that explains like how to draw a t-shirt like nicely. Let's see if I can find it. If I can't find it easily, I'll just wing it, and it won't look great, but it'll be fine. I don't see it. I don't see the one I was thinking of, at least. Okay, no, I'm just gonna wing it and do my best. It won't look good, but it's fine. I could see your avatar working great as a VTuber model. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, it's just kind of my avatar and just like as a moving rig. And I think it'd be nice to play around with and see how it goes, because I already do art streams, right? So it'll basically be like, I've got my little icon on the stream just in the top right corner. It'll basically be just adding a little moving avatar at the bottom while I'm working, right? So I thought it'd be fun to play around with and see how it looks. And just because I like VTubers, I like animation and I like character design. So, you know, like, why not? Just kind of play around, have fun with it, see how it goes. So if this is where the mark of tension is in the fabric, it comes down here. Otherwise, I should just do like what it is in the actual character design, even though it makes no sense, and just make the top kind of tight. I think I might just do that, be easier. I don't think on a live stream is the best place for me to try and learn how to draw anatomy and the t-shirt thing, because I'm busy talking, I'm busy chatting and all that kind of thing, so it doesn't make it super easy to then also learn at the same time. Do that. It's good enough. That makes me think of like the 360 PS3 era where there was always a character in the corner of the screen. And she has like a little skirt. Yes. Oops. Wrong one. I'm gonna get rid of this. Don't need that. And her skirt is just kind of the most bare basic interpretation of what a skirt looks like. So let's do that. Why not? Too scared to VTube after playing Parasocial. Yeah, I watched Nyaners play that, which was really funny because the character in the game resembles what Natasha looks like in real life a lot. So that game like really weirded her out. It was very funny. Poor joke cat. He didn't deserve the bullying. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I've been a little flustered trying to get the stream off the ground again. So if you were talking about something before, I might have missed it. There we go. Luckily, I mean, I've watched people live stream on YouTube before, and I've seen them have streaming problems as well, so it's not like the end of the world. It's just annoying when it's like, it's not for like an internet problem or whatever, it's literally just because my laptop freaked out because it tried to save something and couldn't handle it. This. That. There we go. Just to kind of give her a bit of shape, because I've seen people that just kind of draw her like, just like a pink skirt and that's it. And I'm like, well, why don't we just give it some dimension? Because otherwise, well, giving it a bit of dimension and just kind of breaking up the silhouette just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. Honestly, I think I've seen more streams that has had some sort of tick issue than streams where everything went smoothly. Yeah, for real. How do I do it if it's like coming directly? So this is coming like this, and that's coming like that, so be like that, I think. I'm trying all kinds of things that I should be having references for, and I'm just not, and it's biting me. It's like, you should have thought this through before you decided to do this. Oh well. Actually, no, I'm not going to do anything for that one. Go like that, go like that, and that's fine. Okay, okay, done. Not worrying about that further. And then she's got like that. Okay, put that away, and let's ink her. Oh, not yellow. I usually use yellow for like effects, like gradients and sparkles and things like that, so let me not use it in a different context, otherwise I'll just confuse myself. No, it's not this one. Is it the mapping pen that I like? Or is it just G pen? It's just G pen, okay. Come on, what's wrong with you now? Oh dear. Okay, hold on. My pen tablet has also decided to freak out now. So that's great. Give me a sec. See if I can find out what's going on. Okay, there we go. I just needed to press down on my trackpad to get it working again. Pencil. Pen, there we go. Patreon, January Patreon stream 2 Electric Boogaloo. Do you think like that movie, I forget what it's called, whatever 2 Electric Boogaloo, do you think they realized how they were completely changing the face of culture simply through giving their rather bad movie the greatest movie title of all time? It doesn't even mean anything. Like, okay, like Electric Boogaloo, sure, it's like dancing and electric because 80s or whatever and like disco and stuff like that, but it's such a nonsensical title. And yet, like, here we are 30, almost 40 years later, and we're still using that phrase, like, whatever 2 Electric Boogaloo. Was it Breakin'? Yes, it was Breakin'. Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Wait, is Electric Boogaloo a real title? Yeah. Somebody, who was it? I just saw it. Where were you? Breakin'. Andrea just reminded me. Again, I'm going to risk looking it up. Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Because I bet it's going to have like a really awesome cover. And awesome being like, depends on your mileage. Oh yeah, look, that's great. Hold on. That's very good. Copy image, paste. Yeah, there we go. Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. It looks exactly how you would expect it to. Like, the movie title is Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, and it came out in the 80s. And even before I put this poster on screen, you probably already knew what it looked like. That's amazing. I love it. That's so good. Early 2000s classic, Move Your Dead Bones. Oh man, that was such a big hit back in the day. I remember seeing like flash animations of that, and that was also like, it was used in AMV Hell, I think like AMV Hell 2. I remember that clearly because they used it for Hellsing, and it was like one of the few anime I'd actually watched at that point that were like mainstream, because we never really had anime airing on television here except for Dragon Ball. So, well, Dragon Ball Z. So all my anime exposure before the internet came from like random anime VHS that were at the video rental place. So Hellsing was one of the few anime that was like quote unquote mainstream. So when I saw it in AMV Hell, it was like, oh, I know that one. A lot of AMV Hell is actually not okay if you watch it these days. Like the very early AMV Hells, a lot of it is like, oh no, it's like very early 2000s humor, and it's actually not acceptable anymore. But a lot of it holds up. There's like a handful of scenes, excuse me, in the original AMV Hell that like still make me laugh absolutely hysterically. But a lot of it, not so much. A lot of it, it's like, ugh. Why did I ever think this was okay at any point in time? Do I like Phineas and Ferb? I haven't really watched a lot of it. Phineas and Ferb came out just after was I still in high school when it came out? I might have been. But I think I was gearing up to study in Vancouver at the time. So I wasn't watching a lot of like Disney Channel and things like that. This was also right after High School Musical and Hannah Montana became super big on the Disney Channel. and I wasn't into either of those. I mean, it's so not what I'm interested in. And because the entirety of the Disney Channel was just so obsessed with those two things specifically, I found myself watching a lot less of the Disney Channel just because it was so focused on something that I really didn't care about. So it ended up with me missing things like Phineas and Ferb. It doesn't have anything to do with whether I think the cartoon is good or not. It's just, I was like, ugh, I don't want to watch the Disney Channel and hear them talk about Hannah Montana for the next 12 hours again. I'm so sick of Hannah Montana. And you think it's like, oh, well, you know, just watch the cartoons. Don't worry about that stuff. You know, just try and ignore the commercials as best you can. And it's like, you don't understand. Like, the cartoons themselves would have episodes where they would reference High School Musical. It was like everywhere. There was like no escape from it. Like, The Emperor's New School had an entire episode which was just literally High School Musical. At least the music was good. Like, The Emperor's New School is not a good cartoon. It's not terrible, it's just not very good. But for whatever reason, it has some of the most insanely good musical numbers I've ever seen in like a television cartoon. It's really weird. I don't know why the music is so good in that show. And it picked up the slack. The one criticism I can give The Emperor's New Groove, there's only one criticism I have for the entire movie, and that's that it did not give Eartha Kitt a musical number. And that is like, it's like, I don't understand why you would put Eartha Kitt in a movie and not give her a musical number, but they didn't. And so The Emperor's New School kind of improves on that because I think it gives Yzma like multiple musical numbers. She has the song Yzmopolis, which is like really good. And as terrible as The Emperor's New Groove straight to DVD sequel is, it also gives Eartha Kitt a song with Feel Like a Million, which is really good. It's such a good song. The only reason to watch any part of the straight to DVD sequel to Emperor's New Groove is to watch Yzma's song. After Yzma is done singing, you can turn the DVD off. You don't need to see more than that. They've been trying to recreate High School Musical for years with stuff like Descendants and Zombies. That's the other thing. Like, it wasn't just High School Musical itself. It was like High School Musical, High School Musical 2, High School Musical 3. And then it had like a bunch of other movies. It had like Rock Camp. And it's not just that they had the movies, it's that the channel as a whole like really pushed those movies. It wanted you to be obsessed with them. And then you had Hannah Montana. And then like, because Ashley Tisdale was in High School Musical and she was also in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, then Zack and Cody started making a lot of like meta references to High School Musical. And then they were like, oh, here's this new cartoon coming out, Phineas and Ferb, starring Ashley Tisdale from High School Musical. And I'm like, oh, I'm so done. Please, I'm begging you, stop telling me about High School Musical. I watched it against my will just because you won't shut up about it. Well, that's because Emperor was supposed to be a musical until they changed it. Yeah, but when it was a musical, that was like when it was still being called Empire of the Sun, right? And it was supposed to be a much more traditional Disney movie. Like, they were going... Like, how I imagine it in my head is like a less funny Road to El Dorado. That's what I imagine they were trying to go for. So I know it was aiming to be a musical when it was still being called Empire of the Sun. But I think by the time it changed to High School Musical, it never leaves. When it changed to The Emperor's New Groove, I think by that time they'd done away with the musical side to it, didn't they? I spoke to the director 1,000 years ago when I saw him at a animation convention. He did a panel on just like his work at Disney, and he had a short talk about The Emperor's New Groove. I don't know if he mentioned anything about it being a musical, and now I kind of wish I asked him about that, because he was one of those people like, I just keep talking and talking and talking about a subject that I find interesting and what I'm passionate about. And he was one of those people where me talking about the animation and like how much I liked it and how much I liked the Emperor's New Groove, and he was like, oh, that's super cool. And then I said I really liked his short Galgo's Guest. We were chatting so much that eventually the security guy had to come closer and he'd be like, we have to keep the line moving because there are other people who want signatures. And so I had to scurry along. So I don't know that I asked him about anything like that, but I don't think I did, because I would remember if I did. But now I'm kind of sorry. If I ever run into him again at some convention or something, that's something I would ask him, is about when the change came from musical into what they had, because he wasn't there when it was still Emperor of the Sun. He was brought in as basically a fixer, where Disney was like, listen, we've got this movie, it's a complete disaster, it's stuck in development hell, we need you to come on board and salvage this movie. And he basically looked at what they had and said, you know what Disney has never made? A straightforward comedy. It's made a lot of movies that has comedy in it, but it's never made an animated movie that's just a comedy and it's not trying to be anything more. And that was his thesis when he took over for Emperor's New Groove. And that's kind of why the movie is the way it is. I could talk about my favorite movies and games for days on end, but my stream, this is not. Don't worry, I'm here to talk endlessly about the games and cartoons and things I'm obsessed with instead. As long as my voice holds out. So was Road to El Dorado DreamWorks trying to one-up Emperor's New Groove? I don't know. Because there's a lot of bad blood between DreamWorks and Disney during that time. Because the reason Ants was made was to try and get that movie out before A Bug's Life. Because the guys who went on to work on DreamWorks knew that they were making A Bug's Life at Disney, and certain people who were working on A Bug's Life until they were kicked out of Disney went over to DreamWorks, and they just made like a competing version of a movie with the same topic. And this is why NDAs are so important in animation. That's why if you're working on a show, you cannot talk about what show you're working on or what the show is about, because then you've got like A Bug's Life and situation where somebody makes a movie with the same concept and tries to get out before your movie or your TV show. It's a big problem, and that's why the NDAs are so important. But yeah, I don't know if Road to El Dorado was meant to one-up the Emperor's New Groove. You know what? It's very possible, if only because Empire of the Sun was in development hell for so long. It's entirely possible they knew, the people who went on to work on DreamWorks knew that Disney was aiming to make Empire of the Sun. And I'm saying this, but you know what? I think Road to El Dorado came out afterwards. Let me double check before I just say something stupid. Road to El Dorado, because I think it came out after, now that I'm thinking about it. Because Emperor's New Groove is 2000s. Oh no, it came out the same year. It came out the exact same year as the Emperor's New Groove. Yeah, then it's entirely possible that some of the people who were kicked out of Disney and went on to work at DreamWorks knew that they were working on Empire of the Sun and tried to get a movie out before them. That is entirely possible. Road to El Dorado was made to pay homage to the Bob Hope / Bing Crosby adventure flicks. That I understand. Like, I love the Road to El Dorado. It is an incredible movie. I'm actually debating on whether to do a video on it at some point, going over how hard that movie went with historical accuracy, because that is insane. Like, there are little things in the Road to El Dorado that are so on point to the historical records we have for the Mayan civilizations during that time period. From the color of the buildings, like the buildings being that bright red color, that is historically accurate. The clothing a lot of the characters wear is entirely historically accurate. The jewelry made out of jade and things like that, that's entirely historically accurate. There's so much in that movie that is on point. And the animators actually went to Ecuador, I think it is. I get confused between Ecuador and Uruguay, but I believe it's Ecuador. they actually went there as I forget what they called it. It's when you send out the animators to the location of where the movie takes place, and they just do sketches and like environmental studies. They did this for The Lion King as well, where they sent them off to, I think it was Kenya, like one of Kenya's nature reserves, and just had them like do like on location drawings and concepts and things. Like they did that for Road to El Dorado as well, which is insane because I think it's a lot easier to go to Kenya and just have like a wild game drive with a guide than it is going to friggin' Ecuador, like those jungles that are so thick like no human being can get through them. That's insane to me. It would be a cool video. It would just require a lot of research on my part. Kind of like when I made the YR 1930s cartoons like that. It would have to be like a video kind of on that level, but it'll probably be a lot longer because I don't know how to shut up. And I don't know how much interest it would get from the YouTube audience. Like it's a bit risky because I tend to find me breaking down cartoon shows tend to get better numbers than me talking about Disney or like breaking down other cartoons and anime and stuff like that. People seem really to come to my channel to watch those long form TV show breakdowns. So I would probably do it. I just think I have to kind of establish my channel a little bit more so that there is more of a built-in audience where I know that a video will appeal to enough people to be worth the time investment to make it. Because that's basically what it boils down to, is time investment. It's not so much, oh, I want to get big numbers on YouTube, as it is this worth the amount of time that I will have to sink into it? And I just have to kind of keep that in mind. But it is something I want to do. I still have a folder on my laptop here where I've collected a lot of research images and stuff. Wait, I saw somebody ask me something. CPUF is like Carl Johnson from GTA San Andreas would say, why can't I meet more women like you? Well, thank you. Are you ever going to finish the Disney ranking series? I am. I just got stuck on The Little Mermaid because it's my favorite Disney movie, and I just have so much I want to say about it. And again, because the Disney stuff doesn't get as much viewership as the cartoon breakdowns that I do, that it kind of has to go on the back burner just so that I can kind of focus on things that will help my channel grow. So it's not like I'm definitely going to get back to it. I just have other things which I feel I need to prioritize my attention to in terms of viewership and stuff. And also, like I said, The Little Mermaid, because I'm highly intimidated having to talk about it. Because there's just so much. There's so much from like the subjective side of why I like that movie. Like I have to talk about that and why it's my favorite Disney movie, even though it's probably not the best Disney movie. In fact, no, it's not the best Disney movie because I think objectively speaking, The Lion King is a lot better. But it's my favorite Disney movie and like why that is. And then talk about, it's Howard Ashman, correct? Like speak about Howard Ashman. I believe that's his name. Sorry, I'm very bad with names. Like the amount of personal experience he pumped into The Little Mermaid, especially in Part of Your World. Like that's a very important song in terms of like what it represents for the people who wrote and made that movie, and things like the decision to base Ursula's design off of Divine, the drag queen, and just the time period of when that movie came out. And I want to talk about things such as the bad faith criticism people give that movie for, like, Ariel doesn't go through a character arc, so that means it's a bad story, because people don't really know what the different kinds of character writing, like they don't understand that there's something called a dynamic character, which is a character that goes through an arc and changes throughout the course of the story, and there's something called a static character, which is a character that does not go through a significant change in a story, and it's more about the events that happen to that character rather than their personal growth. For instance, we were talking about Gladiator earlier. Gladiator is an example of a movie with a static character, because a main character man, whose name I forget because I'm bad with names, he does not go through a character arc in that movie. He does not go through a character change. He doesn't start at one point, go through experiences, and ends up a different person than at the start of the movie. He is 100% the exact same person as he was at the start of the movie, because that's not what the story is about. The story isn't about his character arc. It's not about him changing as a person. That's not the plot. That's not what the movie's interested in talking about. And people think, like, I've heard people say, oh, The Little Mermaid is bad because Ariel doesn't go through a character change. She's exactly the same at the end of the movie as she is at the beginning, and that means the movie is bad. And it's like, no, that's not how writing works. Another movie with a static character is To Kill a Mockingbird, and I really want to use that as an example because the plot of To Kill a Mockingbird is so it's a challenging topic. If you don't know what To Kill a Mockingbird is about, I recommend looking it up. And saying that the main character, the lawyer, has to go through a character change based on where he starts when he enters the movie is an insane claim to make. Like, it makes absolutely zero sense if you look at what the movie's about. And I really want to use that as like a comparison, because I'm like, really? You guys say it's a bad movie because the main character doesn't change? Do you expect characters like in To Kill a Mockingbird to go through a character change? Is that what you're telling me? Also, come to think of it, does what's his name from The Martian? He doesn't go through a character change either, does he? Because that whole movie is just about him trying to survive. It's just him trying to not die on the surface of Mars. It's the only thing that's the plot. He doesn't go through a character change. So yeah, I want to address all of that. And then I that's not even factoring in like the stuff that I talk about with the other parts of the Disney retrospective, where I talk about Katzenberg, like how he was shaping the company at the time, the various animators that were involved with making The Little Mermaid. Like, The Little Mermaid is where James Baxter enters the scene, so I'm gonna have to talk about James Baxter and like how that happened, because that's an insane story all on its own. James Baxter was working on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he was an assistant animator, so all he was doing was animating the watch chain on one of the weasels. That was his job. He was only working on that. But he was animating in his spare time just to kind of, have fun. And one of the Disney directors saw what he was animating in his spare time, and it was of such high quality that James Baxter went from animating a watch chain to being a main character animator for The Little Mermaid. That is insane. That is unheard of. Like, that just does not happen. Normally an animator reaches like that level of animation in their 40s and over, just because you need that much time to reach that level of skill. And James Baxter, in like his early to mid 20s, was bumped up to like character animator on The Little Mermaid. And I know he said like he looks at certain drawings that he did in the movie and he cringes a little because he's just so much better now. And it's like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see the weaknesses that you do. But yes, I have to basically talk about all of that when I get to talking about The Little Mermaid, and I'm kind of intimidated by it, and I'm probably just overthinking it, and it's not that deep, but it just feels like a lot that I really need to cover to properly explain why I like The Little Mermaid, and also how it essentially saved Disney as an animation studio, and just like the cultural fallout that The Little Mermaid left on the landscape of animation at the time. It's a lot to cover, and like I said, I kind of intimidated myself. Like, how the hell am I supposed to tackle this topic? How am I supposed to talk about all of this and keep it as concise as possible, so I'm not talking about The Little Mermaid for like a full hour And then I still have so many movies that I have to get to with the rest of the retrospective. So that's like a whole thing. Something that I don't like is how older Disney movies have given modern Disney an awful habit of making every main character a good role model. Perfect people don't exist and just end up boring and bland. I mean, I guess, I don't know if perfect role model is really the goal. I think the goal is to have marketable characters, right? To give the characters marketable personalities that are easy to sell to people. And that's how you end up with characters like, what's her name, the main character in Wish. Like, that character only exists to hit every single checkbox on main Disney character to appeal to the broadest audience possible. And basically Disney reached the event horizon where a character is written with the intent of appealing to literally everybody, and there is an event horizon that you reach when you write a character like that. It works for a little while, you know, and it's been working for Disney up to a point. And they have now pushed it of writing a character that appeals to everyone to the event horizon where that character becomes hollow. Like, they've reached the point where in their desire to appeal to as many people as possible, they appeal to no one. And that's something that happens a lot in writing for television and movies from a corporate perspective, where trying to make something appeal to literally everyone makes it appeal to literally nobody. And like, nobody is on board. And it's happened a few times. It doesn't happen that often because most movie studios are not that dense. But here we are, and it's Disney, so what do you expect? When you try to please everybody, you please nobody. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Disney goes through slump periods all the time. They'll get out of it. I hope so. I think they need to downsize, like, drastically. And I think they need to, you know, in a perfect world, I'd be like, free certain studios, free 20th Century Fox to be its own thing, free, like The Simpsons to be its own thing, free National Geographic. Somebody save National Geographic from Disney. I am begging people, do something, and please save that trademark or franchise or whatever you want to call it. Please get that out of Disney's hands, because they are ruining it and it is killing me inside. Like, I'm actively dying about that. So, like I said, in my perfect world, that's, you know, just downsize a little bit, cut some of these properties and studios under your umbrella, let them either be bought by other people. I'm not talking about other big studios. I'm talking like people who want to take those studios, buy them and kind of build them up again. Like, do something like that. Kind of what happened to Disney in the 80s and 70s, where people took over because Disney was looking to merge with one of the other movie studios in the 70s because it was going so badly. And they didn't, because they got new ownership. They got a new CEO that kind of, you know, Bill Eisner just kind of navigated the waters to keeping it as its own company. And I feel like a lot of these like big studios that Disney owns would just be much better if sold to somebody who just kind of wants to build them up again as good studios. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but in a perfect world, that's what I would like to see happen. And just get National Geographic out of Disney's hands. National Geographic had no business being a Disney-owned product at all. I don't know why that happened. It's an awful move. It has done nothing but damage National Geographic, possibly permanently, and it makes me sick to my stomach, and I need somebody to rescue that. Seriously. James Baxter, animated Steven Universe fusing with his gem half in Change Your Mind. I said that really weirdly. With his gem half in Change Your Mind. James Baxter did it as a favor after Rebecca Sugar drew for his daughter. Yeah, he also did some of the animation in Gravity Falls' intro theme song. The part where... What's her name? I forget the girl's name. The part where Dipper has the flashlight in his hand, And there's a perspective shot in the intro where he turns around and the flashlight lands on some writing and he drops the flashlight and he's like flailing around. That's James Baxter. And Mabel, thank you. And Mabel, where she is hugging her pig, her pet pig, and she's like smushing her cheek against him, that's also James Baxter. I should grab let me grab a sip of my Coke here, my throat's getting dry. James Baxter was referenced in Adventure Time too. Yeah, actually the horse on a beach ball that's in Adventure Time, that was actually animated. Oops, dropped my phone. That was actually animated by James Baxter himself. Like, the horse is named James Baxter in Adventure Time, but that horse on a beach ball, that entire sequence is animated by James Baxter himself. Take a sip of this. Because James Baxter was the director, the animation director, I believe, on Spirit, the Stallion of the Cimarron, I think is the by title. And horses are notoriously difficult to draw, let alone animate. So the fact that he animated so much of Spirit, that's kind of also where the horse on a beach ball thing came from, because animating horses is just such a nightmare. And I know there's like a story where a student asked him to draw a horse on a, like animate a horse on a beach ball or something. There's like an entire story, but I'd have to look up like what the details are because I've forgotten. But there's like lore. Sorry, hiccup. Yeah. There's like lore as to why the horse on a beach ball happened in the first place. And not even Napoleon could get an animated, could not get an, oh, the icon's on the way, hold on, I can't read that word. Not even Napoleon could get an artist to draw a correct horse. That's actually an interesting story. Do you guys want me to like, fact dump about the art of horses? Because there's an interesting story there. If you guys want me to like dump a bunch of info on you regarding the art of horse drawing, just let me know. You're saying yes? Okay. So, for hundreds upon hundreds of years, maybe thousands, artists knew that at some point in a full gallop, a horse's legs, all four legs left the ground. They knew that happened. But when a horse is in full gallop, you can't tell when that moment is. They could never figure out at what point in a full gallop is a horse's legs, all four legs off the ground. So for hundreds of years, artists were under the impression that a horse's legs fully leaves the ground when they're in a bound position. Let me see if I can find a horse. Galloping horse, classical art. See if I can find something. Otherwise, I'll type in Napoleon. Maybe that'll actually show me. Oh no, here we go. This'll work. Come on, load picture. There we go. So, for hundreds of years, people were under the impression that a horse's legs fully left the ground in this part of a full gallop, right? So, when you see pictures of Napoleon riding a horse, his horse has all its four legs off the ground in a full gallop. But then, in the very late 1800s, there was a guy whose name I forget, who did all those sequence photography horse. Yes, this guy. I forget what the man's name is, and that upsets me because I know who he is. It sucks having like memory issues. Having memory issues is really frustrating. But anyway, the guy who did these, the guy who like placed, I think like 20 cameras, and then they had like tripwires, so that when the animal comes past the tripwire, like the sequence of cameras just take photos like ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. And he was one of the first people to like photograph animals and humans in motion, which became invaluable to when animation started becoming more of a thing. But it was only in the late 1800s, when he was doing this, that people were able to see a horse's forelegs only leave the ground in this pose, when they're like all off the ground. And at no other point during a full gallop does a horse have all feet off the ground. But nobody could know that until those photos were taken, just because you can't capture that specific moment with an old-timey camera. And before cameras were invented, I mean, there's no chance to try and figure that out just by looking at a horse in full gallop, because horses gallop so fast. So, in a way, it is thanks to a rudimentary form of animation, even though it's not really animation, it's capturing a sequence of images that have since then always been referred to or referenced in animation. That was the first time people realized, oh, that's when a horse's legs are all four legs off the ground. And before that, they just couldn't get it right because nobody could figure out how it works. And that is why a lot of horse art looks weird, is because they genuinely couldn't figure out the like mechanics of how a horse works. And then you just have the fact that a horse is just a difficult animal to draw. Like, you see Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of him trying to figure out how a horse looks, and even you can see like his notes and everything. He's like losing his mind because he can't figure it out. It's very funny. Edward Muber, thank you. Mewbridge? Yeah, Mewbridge, not Muber. Edward Mewbridge, that's it, that's the man. He did a bunch of them. They're actually worth looking up. There's some really interesting stuff there. The slow-mo joke I wanted to make is actually how they did it. Yeah, for real. And I think that's a big part of it as well. Like I'm saying, just the galloping thing. But I think in general, you can try and kind of figure out how a horse looks when it's standing still. It's still really difficult to draw, but you can try your best to sort of figure it out. But trying to draw a horse in any kind of motion is difficult if you're unable to capture still images of it. And part of it is a horse's spine does not bend when they run or when they trot. Most other animals, including like deer and goats and things like that, their spines tend to bend when they're running or trotting. A horse kind of rocks back and forth. It keeps its spine relatively rigid, and that's why, you know, they're a riding animal. That's why they were domesticated in the first place, is because they had that locomotion. And it's just such a weird way of moving that doesn't really gel with any other animal's way of moving. That's also why it's difficult to get them down. Like, first of all, their anatomy is a disaster, and it makes relatively no sense if you really look at it. And otherwise, they just move very weird. And then you had other things like, I'm not an art historian. I never took art history as a subject. I think at the time I would have found it very boring. I love history, but I think art history would have driven me insane. But there's like a lot of reasons why certain art did certain things. Like, and I'm just thinking, like, the formula of how you should draw a horse, there were probably like strict parameters that dictated you should draw a horse like this, you should draw a horse like that, which also probably impeded the sophistication of art for a very long time. Because like one of the things that people make fun of in medieval art is like when people draw super buff babies in medieval art. And what they don't realize is, for a while there, the church was of the opinion that if Jesus was born perfect in body, right? If Jesus was born perfect in body, because whatever religion, he should have a fully perfect adult body as a baby, because that is how they interpret being born as perfect. Like it's so weird. Like it's not because the medieval artists, it's not because the medieval artists didn't know what they were doing. It's because there were all these like weird rules to how they could draw certain things that made absolutely no sense if you stop and think about it for 5 seconds. Okay, I've got a gap here somewhere. Oh, it's probably this one. Love snails in medieval art? Yeah. This is really yellow for her skin tone, but that's what the official art has. Unless, let me see if I can grab a different image. Maybe she's not as yellow in other art. Nyan Nico Sugar Girls. See if I can grab like a screenshot of the show itself. No, that she is pretty yellow. It's not a great color for his skin tone. Yeah, I'll grab this image because this is an actual screenshot. It's a bit crushed to hell, but it should work unless there's a better one. But I can't find a better one. No, it'll do. It's good enough. Paste. Oops. You see, it's not that yellow. It's does have a slight more orange tint to it. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Okay. There we go. Do this. Can you imagine animating Sleipnir, the horse with 8 legs? I cannot imagine it. Like that horse. It's in Final Fantasy. I think it's in a few of them, but I think it's got like a full cutscene. I know it's got one in Final Fantasy X. I think it has one in Final Fantasy IX and 8. And I don't know how they animated it at the time in the 90s in CG 3D art with the technology that they had at the time and like made it actually look realistic. I don't know how they did that because I think that was a bloody nightmare. FF8 had it as was Odin's horse. Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was FF8 because I know that Final Fantasy X, it does have the horse, but I don't think it's the one with the 8 legs. I don't like this green. I'm not going to use this green. I'm going to use this green instead. I hate that color. It's so ugly. I'm not doing that to her. Here we go. Kind of backward and not medieval, but I had to analyze a 16th century manuscript, and at some point my professor had to stop me to point out that what I took as a smart choice was most likely just a mistake. It's like all those like what do you call them? Like the pages that monks had to draw. I think they're called illuminaries. I don't know if it's illuminations. I'm not sure. But then you've got like things written in the margin of those by these monks that are things like, I have no idea what I'm doing, or good lord, I've been drawing this for 6 hours, please send help. There's like all these like notations scribbled in the margins. Do you have a favorite piece of ancient or medieval art? The first thing that comes to mind is the Ice Princess tattoo. I really like that. There's some art pieces from Herculaneum I really like, especially the mosaic. There's some stunning mosaic and frescoes from Herculaneum I really like and think are really, really cool. I'm trying to get rid of Breaking to Electric Boogaloo. I'm trying to think what else. I have to leave? Okay, well, thanks for hanging out, Sode, I think it is. Not always sure about pronunciation. I set about 3 minutes to deal with a Nigerian scammer, and now I'm completely lost. Good lord. Are you talking about Ixion from Final Fantasy X? Yes, that's it, that's it. The horse that with the lightning, that has like the elemental attack of lightning. And it's got like the really cool horn on its head, because it's like, it's more like a Kirin horn than a unicorn horn. But I think that horse just has like a normal amount of legs. It's weird that in Final Fantasy VIII, you say it's called Odin's summon. That's very strange, because the horse with 8 legs, that's Loki's daughter. Like the god Loki. The horse is his daughter. So I don't know why Odin would be riding it. Because I forget the horse's name in the mythology, but she would be on the opposite warring side of Odin, right? Along with the serpent. So that's very strange. I don't really know why Final Fantasy has Odin riding it. Look, things were different back then. What is CPAP's favorite Neko Girl character? I like Raku-chan. I like Koneko-chan as well, but I like Raku-chan just because she's so obnoxious. Like, she's such a terrible character. Like, every minute she's on screen is just pure agony. It's very funny. Her ears are a different color from her tail. Everything about this show is just a headache. Sleipnir. Was Sleipnir a gift to Odin as a means to keep the peace or similar? I don't think so. I think Sleipnir was wild after she was born. I think. I can't remember. I want to say yes, but I'm not sure. Your mind is Ichigo. Honestly, maybe they just liked it and threw it in. Yeah, and the thing is as well, a lot of Final Fantasy, its inspiration comes from Dungeons and Dragons and general, like, the Japanese perception of what Western mythology is. And it's not that they didn't understand certain things. I think it's just because it's not part of their culture. They basically ignored certain things. We're like, well, this is a lot cooler. It would be a lot cooler to have Odin riding Sleipnir, so we're just gonna do it. Kind of like how America treated ninjas in the 80s, where it's like, look, we know this makes absolutely no sense and isn't what ninjas actually are like, and has nothing to do with ninjas in actual Japanese culture, but we think this is cool, so we're just going to present it this way instead. And I think maybe Final Fantasy did the same thing with Odin and Sleipnir. It's like, this is just cool, so we're just going to do this, even though it's not how anything works. I thought you were drawing Mew Pudding, but now I realized that you're drawing a character from... Yeah, no, I'm not drawing one of the Tokyo Mew Mew girls. I'm seeing a lot of empty spaces there. There we go. Similar to how Disney took liberties with Hercules in Greek mythology. Yeah, kind of. Except in Disney's case, it wasn't so much... Well, it's not part of a culture, so we're not going to try. In Disney's case, it was just basically a complete disregard. Which kind of sucks, because if you look at a lot of the gods' design, especially at Hercules' birthday scene, a lot of the designs for certain Greek gods are so good in that movie. Like, you can see exactly who certain Greek gods are in that movie without them even having speaking roles on camera. Odin actually ride that horse in the mythology? Really? I'm going to have to look that up, because I'm very rusty. I can remember certain things, but then there's other things I can't remember. It's been a while since I read up on Norse mythology. What little of it we do have intact, which sadly is not as much as people think. Like, there's a lot of Norse mythology we just lost due to time and poor archiving, I guess, but poor archiving going back thousands of years, not so much there were archives of it and we lost them, so much as things were just never properly written down, or things that were written down weren't looked after properly, things like that, which is a shame. Versus like the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, who were meticulous with record keeping and writing things down. And also like the environment, like Egypt. The climate of Egypt is just a lot more suited to preservation of writing and paper and papyrus and things like that. Whereas like Scandinavia and Northern Europe, not so much. Unless you're talking about like the bogs. But I don't think, again, my historical knowledge of Vikings isn't as good as it could be. But I don't think they were prone to writing down much of their culture. I don't think they really had much of a focus on that. Her primary source is not found. Dry desert climate? Yeah. Because bad movies and bad games deserve to be heard back. Oh, Spoonie quote? Man, I miss Spoonie. His content was so good. Back in the day when you didn't just have a new YouTube essay to watch every single day, I would rewatch some of Spoonie's content like over and over again. So like some of the quotes of those videos are like ingrained in my memory just because I would watch his stuff on repeat so often. I see that he's unprivated a lot of his early reviews though. Not all of them, but a good chunk of his early stuff is back up on his channel now, which is great. And I think it's good because I feel like it's nicer if that stays up and that Spoonie gets the monetization income from those videos rather than an archive channel. And then Spoonie doesn't see like any monetary income from what is basically his own work. So I think him unprivating a lot of those videos, oops, I did not mean to do that. Him unprivating a lot of those videos is actually really good, and I'm very happy to see it. Mythologies were rarely ever reserved. Even epics like the Iliad took hundreds of years to be written down. The thing is with the Iliad is I watched a very interesting YouTube essay on the nature of books, and at the time that the Iliad was being passed around, most of like there was a pie graph that was on screen, and it like that pie graph is like seared into my memory, where 30% of all written down books in ancient Greece were copies of the Iliad. That's also why we have surviving records of it, is just because it was the most widely written down and shared book in ancient times. It's actually a very good video. It's by, I think it's Trey the Explainer, if I remember correctly. I'm kind of going to slightly copy the eye design in the official design rather than go with something that I would go with, just because I think it will kind of communicate better that it's Raku-chan. The Norse didn't write down anything, and the best source we have is Christianization, Icelandic propaganda. Yeah, which is a shame. It's like how our best records of the Mayan language is what was written down in the 1500s by this real bastard of a priest who made it his life's mission to like eradicate the Mayan culture. And in doing so, he made like meticulous recordings of their language in his book. I don't know if it was a book or a diary or what it was, but he made like meticulous cataloging of the Mayan language as part of his eradication campaign. And nowadays, it's only because of his documentation that we have as good a record of Mayan culture as we do. It's like a tasty bit of like historic irony. which I'm sure makes that guy, I can't remember his name, like, he's like rolling in his grave, just like seething in anger that he is the only reason why a lot of that culture survived. So, good job, guy. And these colors are so ugly. I might change the skin color. I don't know if I can deal with this. Hold on. I need like a nice skin color. I can't deal with this. That's too pink. It's better. I do want to give her a slight yellow undertone. There we go. That's so much better. Oh, thank heavens. Green and purple always makes me think of the Joker and or Mardi Gras. Green and purple makes me think of, I guess, like the Riddler? I'm not sure. Something like that. I don't think the Joker necessarily. Like the Jim Carrey version of the Riddler. Well, there we go. I couldn't deal with the skin tone that the screenshot was giving, and I couldn't deal with the skin tone of this drawing either. I can't handle it. Okay, now let's give her some basic shading because I like doing that. Lock this, yes. Make this purple, and I'll make this purple as well because it's shading. Okay. Okay, so I pick that, so that's the next shade down. I'm gonna find a way to erase a culture I can't stand by writing down as accurately as possible everything about them. That's some 4D chess thinking right there. Yeah, man. Like, it's the kind of historical, like, that weird level of irony that's like poetic justice in a way, because this guy was a piece of shit, like, make no mistake, absolute horrendous person. And through his own actions, he ended up being the exact opposite of what he set out to do, to the betterment of literally mankind as a whole. It's so good. I live for that kind of story in history, where like just irony comes into play, and it's so good. It happens more frequently than you'd expect. History is weird that way. And I'm talking like actual history. I'm not talking like propaganda history where things have been twisted to fit specific narratives and stuff like that. What else? Oh, yeah. I love how long and thick her neck is. Yeah. Yeah, I was fighting with my inner desire to correct a lot of the anatomy, and I didn't entirely succeed in going full like chibi neko, but I was fighting for my life. I would probably be a little bit better at it if I weren't on stream and I could like really sit and think about how I want to break the anatomy to be more stylized. Stylization is not my strong point. It's not something I'm terrible at. It's just not, it doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know if Seapuff watches Spoonie. I love Spoonie, man. I used to watch him all the time. I used to watch him back on his own website before YouTube was a thing. Spoonie was, okay, no, Spoonie wasn't my first exposure to internet critics. That was, like most people, James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. I used to watch him on Screw Attack. I think I watched him before Screw Attack, but Screw Attack is where I saw him the most. And then a friend of mine linked me to Spoonie's website, and I would just watch his videos that were like hosted on his own website. And like that led me to the Nostalgia Critic and Brad Jones and things like that. It was through Spoonie, not the other way around. And I basically kept watching Spoonie until his mental health just got to such a degree that he retreated from being online as much as he was. I believe he might be doing a bit better these days because he's been a guest on the YouTube channel that does live streams. It's run by the guy who plays Curtis in Phantasmagoria 2. And he often live streams. He does Curtis plays. And when he did a playthrough of Phantasmagoria 2, he had Spoonie as a guest on that live stream. And I still need to watch it, but I do know that that's a thing that happened. And apparently it was a lot of fun. And Spoonie has been a guest on his show more than once. So Spoonie appears to be doing much better these days. I've been watching a few videos that were like talking about certain, not YouTube, but like internet personalities and kind of like where are they now, but in a negative sense. I was watching a video on Movie Bob, where I never watched Movie Bob, but just kind of breaking down what happened with Movie Bob. And there was a video on Dobson, I believe his name is, and I saw Dobson's art on DeviantArt back in the day, but I never followed him. So I've kind of been catching up on things like that. And I think that because of how Spoonie's mental health declined around the time that it did, I know that he couldn't stay off Twitter, and he really needed to get off Twitter. Like, somebody needed to tell him to log off. But I think that Spoonie not being online while he was struggling as much as he was probably for the best for him. I think we are able to look fondly back on Spoonie, whereas we can't with people like Movie Bob, because Spoonie did the right thing to a certain degree and just kind of retreated back from being as much on the online space as some of these other creators who we now kind of struggle to know what to do with on some level because of what they've turned into, specifically people like Movie Bob and Dobson and things like that. Although I don't know if people ever liked Dobson. I think they did. Not Movie Bob. And like, I'm thinking like, but again, even because I'm thinking like people like, not Wings of Redemption. Who's the other guy? DPS? DSP? That guy? I think it's DSP. Like, was he ever popular? Like, I'm genuinely asking, because this was a side of YouTube and video creators that I was not into. This wasn't part of like the kind of stuff I watched. So I'm not entirely sure if they were always ridiculed or if they did have a level of audience at some stage. I do know Movie Bob did. I know Movie Bob had quite a following for a while until he went completely off the deep end. But I'm not sure about the others. But again, my point is, I think that Spoonie taking a step back when he did was the best thing for him. DSP? Yeah, thank you. What's wrong with Movie Bob? Movie Bob, he has a tendency to... How do I put this without saying it wrong? He's one of those people where he's made American politics his entire personality. That's the best way I can put it. Whereas instead of coming online and giving making his show and talking about, this is a movie, this is what I think of the movie, I disliked it, I liked it, 5 out of 10 or whatever, he would find a way to bring American politics into topics that had nothing to do with American politics. And he would find ways to like force it in there where it had no place, like at all. And it frustrated a very large part of his audience. He's like one of those. And then he also has the problem of being hopelessly addicted to Twitter as well. Somebody did the numbers, and I saw in a comment, I'm bad with math, so I can't corroborate this if the numbers are correct. But the person said that if you look at the amount of tweets that Movie Bob has made on his time on Twitter, starting at 2011 until today, it averages out to about a tweet and a half every hour since 2011. If you if you crunch the numbers that way, and you know that's a bit of a problem. I used to like Brad Jones. His personality really started turning me off after a while. I haven't watched him in a while. I want to start watching him again. But I don't know if I'll super be into his stuff. I'll have to see. The thing is, I have a lot of other things which I know are really good that I actually really want to watch. Like interesting YouTube documentaries or people just discussing interesting things. And that's why I haven't really gone back to Brad Jones. But I really like... I wouldn't say I really like exploitation movies, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is I'm fascinated by the nature of exploitation movies. Like, I wouldn't want to watch exploitation movies myself, but I find the film history behind how those films were made and their place in cinematic history very interesting. I've actually got a book about exploitation films and why they happened and what in the cultural atmosphere caused them to exist and how they impacted the mainstream movies. Like there's an entire fascinating subject there. And that's kind of why I really enjoyed Brad Jones' work back in the day. Because he himself, he's charismatic, he's fun to watch. But also just the topic itself was fascinating to me. But I think there's a lot of YouTubers these days that cover maybe not that exact topic, but that cover things like horror films and exploitation films and kind of discuss them and their historical place and such. Possibly in ways that are a little better than Brad Jones would do. I like exploitation movies. That's why I watch film. I still watch The Amanda Hagen. I also still watch The Amanda Hagen. The Amanda Hagen is great. Like, legitimately great creator. Her budget and her, like, production is zero. But the thing is, the movies that she covers are also, like, they're a step above, like, home videos. They're like when I was 11 and would make, like, movies with my Barbies and like pony toys. That is the kind of movie she reviews on her show. So the fact that her production quality is also on the same level is really funny because it matches exactly what she's talking about. But she herself, I feel, she's very well spoken and she's extremely knowledgeable in many things to do with like that side of filmmaking. And her videos that she did a series on the Franklin expedition, specifically like the historic Franklin expedition. That is a fascinating video series that she did. I highly recommend that if you can stomach the subject matter. It's really fascinating, and that's the first place I actually learned about the Franklin expedition. So now I like the Amanda Hagen. I haven't watched her in a while, but I really like her content. And I really respect her when like all the change the channel stuff went down. She just stayed out of it completely. She made like one joke video that had nothing to do with it whatsoever. And she didn't even comment on it beyond that. It was really funny. She's just like, nah, I'm not interested in taking part in this argument and fight. I'm just going to stay in my lane and talk about Doctor Who. Take him to Detroit. Social media has made it so easy to be close to media creators while also making it so easy to band against them without clear cause. Yeah, I think so, but I also think it depends on the social media platform, right? I'm barely on Twitter. Basically, I only tweet things when I'm trying to address or complain to a big company because I know doing it through Twitter is like the easiest way for them to see what you're talking about. Like, I tweeted at Eurovision a day or two ago about some, current things that Eurovision has decided to do this year that I don't think is in line with what Eurovision stands for. So I'm not going to be watching it this year, unfortunately, which sucks because it's the 50th ABBA anniversary. But I don't agree with some of the decisions that Eurovision made this year. So that was like the last time I tweeted anything. And I'm mostly on Tumblr. And yes, there's like, I follow Will Wheaton on Tumblr. And Will Wheaton tends to talk about politics a lot. It's really tiring. But I still follow him because when he's not talking about politics, it's just fun. Because he'll talk about his experience on Star Trek, and when the writer's strike and actor's strike was happening, his input regarding that was really interesting to me, because he's one of those child actors that his parents really screwed him over, similar to Macaulay Culkin, where the only reason that Will Wheaton had any money once he left his parents' home was from residual payments from Star Trek The Next Generation. And that was like one of the few things that like stopped him from being homeless, is because he had that steady income from residuals. So his input regarding the actors' strike and stuff was really useful to me. But I think like I said, I think it depends on what social media platform you're on. And I think Twitter, unfortunately, by design, is more geared to fuel outrage in many ways, in most ways. And I think a lot of people, and I don't know what it is in the psychological makeup that like would make them this way, but a lot of people get addicted to the discourse, even though they pretend they hate the discourse and they hate the arguing, whatever, but it is literally what they do all day, every day. I'm thinking like Movie Bob. Like Movie Bob is just constantly arguing about politics on his Twitter, and it's because he's addicted to like to that kind of feedback, and he's addicted to that kind of arguing, and Twitter is just a platform that kind of enables that kind of interaction. Whereas Tumblr has its own issues, and it's not that Tumblr isn't political, because it is, but the way Tumblr works, it's not designed for that kind of addiction the way Twitter is. Tumblr has its own kind of addiction. Tumblr's addiction is more like this steady stream of dopamine, right? Because it's just, here's the fandom you like. Here are some cool facts about history. Here are some cool facts about biology. Here is like an entire essay on this character's psychological makeup. Like, it's really addictive to get sucked into that rabbit hole and just spend hours scrolling. But it's not the kind of addiction where you're just refreshing to argue with somebody like for hours and hours and hours. Whereas I feel a lot of Twitter, because Twitter figured out that outrage tends to fuel engagement a lot more than anything else. So it encourages you to tweet about things like that, etc., etc. I think it's a complex issue, but I don't think it's social media itself. I think it is specifically how certain kinds of social media have been designed to be used, and what kind of content that social media specifically encourages its users to take part in. The older internet has become echo chambers. It's become a real issue where reality is a case-by-case basis. I don't think it's a new issue. I mean, I've been on the internet since the late 90s, and it's kind of always been an issue to a certain degree. It's just in a different form. It's a different packaging of an older problem, really. I don't think it's really like, oh, things are so much worse than they used to be. It's like, no, things are just different than they used to be. It's not that they're better or worse. They're just the same, but different. And I've been online long enough to notice that. Yeah, but echo chambers have existed even... Yeah, before the internet. You know what? That actually leads me into a much more interesting conversation. I have a book on H.P. Lovecraft. Now, I know H.P. Lovecraft, problematic, etc., blah, blah, blah. There is a section in the H.P. Lovecraft book I have. It's about him. It's not by him. He had like... Sorry, it's a big peep-up in the mic. H.P. Lovecraft had like a months-long argument in the letters section of a horror magazine that he was submitting short stories to. Because another writer that was submitting short stories to the same magazine included one that was very romance-focused. And H.P. Lovecraft, who was extremely asexual and aromantic, felt that that had no place in a horror magazine. So he and this other guy had months upon months of writing letters to be published in the magazine of them just arguing with each other. like through the letters section. And you had like letters come in by some of the other writers also published in the letter section that were basically like, dude, shut up. We are so tired of hearing you two argue about this romance thing. And eventually it got to the point where the editor of the magazine had to step in and basically ban Lovecraft and this other writer from sending any more letters on this topic, because they were just so tired of these two like arguing and being like extremely elitist when it came to like what should and should not be allowed to be printed in the horror magazine. And I read that section, I'm like, I've seen this exact argument about slightly different topics play out in real time. Like, I've seen this exact conversation. Even though Lovecraft was asexual, I mean, I am projecting that identity onto him because he existed before that was a thing. Like, people didn't know that asexuality was a thing. But Lovecraft himself openly stated that he had a revulsion to sex in general. Like, he had an open revulsion and like high dislike for anything sexual. There's like talk how when his writer friends, when they would all be in a room together, and his friends who, you know, they're dudes, when they start making like sex jokes and things like that, Lovecraft would get so uncomfortable he'd get up and leave the room just because he didn't want to hear about it. He was just uninterested. He didn't want to know about it. He didn't want to hear about it, so he'd just leave. And his wife, who eventually ended up marrying him, she was the one who proposed to him, and he didn't have any direct romantic interest in her. When she proposed to him, he basically just felt like, oh, that's a thing that people do, is they get married. So he got married to her, and he didn't even bother telling his family until like 2 days after it happened. He's like, oh, by the way, I got married 2 days ago. So that is why I'm quite confident in saying, oh no, this man was extremely asexual and aromantic. Childhood trauma? Possibly. I mean, his mother treated him terribly. There's like some weird Munchausen by proxy going on there as well. But his mother was also like mentally unwell. And I don't know if it was like genetic or behavioral. I'm not sure. Very, very screwed up things happening in that family. But anyway, my point is, so yeah, this kind of like arguing online existed before online existed. People were arguing in letter sections about things like this, specifically about like fandom drama, which is hilarious to me. I kind of want to just give some shading to her bust here. His mother was probably the reason why he turned out the weirdo he did. Absolutely. I think also, I don't know, because we don't know, but I believe he might have been neurodivergent to a certain point as well, just from like some of the behaviors that are documented about him. Is stuff that I'm not autistic, but I've got ADHD, and there are certain behaviors that are written down about him that I recognize as like, oh, I recognize that kind of behavior. I understand what kind of behavior that is. But I don't know the man. I can't diagnose the man. He's no longer with us. We don't know, so I can't just confidently say, oh, that's what that is, you know? But I have a strong suspicion. And I feel in modern day we would probably be in a better place to understand a lot of that. It's like, Louis Wayne. It's like how people believe that Louis Wayne was most likely autistic, but also we don't really know for sure because he lived in the early 1900s, so we just don't know. And it might be slightly inappropriate to attribute things to people who are no longer around, but at the same time, there are certain behaviors that are so textbook that you look at them and you're like, come on, dude. There's nothing else this could be. When I said the echo chamber thing, I was referring to how we now have algorithms pushing us in certain directions for engagement. I mean, I guess. Again, I'm on Tumblr, and Tumblr doesn't have an algorithm, so... But YouTube does, that is true. Although my algorithm for YouTube is kind of broken because it'll often recommend me videos that have like under 100 views, and I don't know why. And they're usually things that have nothing to do with what I'm interested in. Like, I haven't watched anything to make YouTube think that this is a topic I'd be interested in, and yet it'll keep recommending me videos with extremely low view counts. And I don't know what I've watched or done to make it think that that's something I'm interested in. This might be a bit dark. I might have to go a bit lighter for this. That's better, yeah. Koers Gezacht made a very interesting video about the problems of the internet, and the echo chamber may or may not be the main problem. I guess I tend not to watch people's videos discussing like the problem with the internet, regardless of how valid it is, just because I'm not particularly interested. It's not a problem in my life. Until it is, I suppose, but at this point in time, I don't think it's a problem in my life, and it's not a problem I have any personal desire to engage with, and I have too many other things to watch and interests that I'd rather spend time looking up topics into, so I just kind of avoid it, because it's not really my thing. It's not really a moral conversation about morals and psychology that interests me. There are other topics to do with psychology and just like the makeup that makes a person behave the way they do. And like I said, I was watching videos about Movie Bob. Like, that's kind of a more interesting way of talking about something similar, rather than the topic of the state of the internet at large. I find it much more interesting to analyze specific individuals, and I think it ties into basically everything else I'm interested in, because when it comes to animation and writing, I'm interested in characters. Like, I really like characters, and I like figuring out how characters think and what makes that character and their behavior and how they've been written. And when it comes to history, I like archaeology specifically because archaeology is the study of everyday objects. Like, I'm not particularly interested in kings and battles and, like, this person became emperor after this person at this year in this king. Like, I don't care about stuff like that. I care about the everyday objects that show how people hundreds and thousands of years ago lived, and, like, how they lived their lives, and to give kind of a concept of everyday life. And on top of this, I also really like biographies. I really like biographies, whether it's like a biopic or just a straightforward biography. And I really like autobiographies in book form, where I like people who write about their own lives and things like that. So I really like watching videos that discuss like certain internet individuals, because it's an interesting look at how certain people behave and an insight into how they think and things like that. And I just find it very interesting, and I think it kind of ties into all the other kind of things I find interesting as well. You know, like that. I think that's where the interest comes from. Thanks for hanging out, Diamond Lock Productions. I'm almost done here, so we're going to be finishing up. I think I just want to throw some gradient on her. Oh, you know what else I can do? Apply to connected pixels only. And then I can just kind of give her, fill in the gaps as best as I can. Turn this off, turn this off. New layer, turn this off. Inverse, fill. There we go. Turn this down. Oh, no, I don't need to turn it down. In the end, it's not really the internet that's the problem, it's the amount of people using without grasping what it can do. I guess so. Again, I think a lot of the behaviors are really, really much older than the internet ever. I think it just boils down to human nature, right? Like I said, here, like reading the letter arguments in the H.P. Lovecraft book, really, it tickled me, but also kind of opened my eyes to how little things have really changed. Just the format has kind of. You said a while back that they've almost always been drawing, but roughly when did you start doing animation? I think I went to like animation college, and I think that's when I really dove head first, because when I was in high school and stuff, there wasn't easy access to animation programs. Like, it just wasn't available on a commercial level. So as a teenager, there was no real way to just learn how to animate, because the programs that you needed to learn how to animate were all only being used by big studios. So there was just no like availability. And once or twice I would do things on paper, right? And I wasn't super good at it, because I didn't really know how to do it. Oh, there's a big black bar here. I'm gonna have to fix that. But I just did not have the opportunity, because it just really wasn't much of a thing at the time. So I only really started animating at college, just due to availability. Glad I was able to see another of your art streams. Yeah, I'm almost finishing up. Just doing this to fill in some holes. And then I'm going to apply a gradient to her, and then I'm going to call the drawing done. What time is it? It's a little past 11. I'm glad a lot of people showed up. I know that Monday isn't the best time to stream. I was just concerned because it was starting to get late in the month, and our electricity has been extremely unreliable in terms of timing. We've been getting a lot of electricity. Our power would only go out once a day, but they would change when the power is due to go out, like 5 minutes before it's due to go out. This Saturday, the entire day, they told us the power was going out at 8, and then 5 minutes before 8, they cancelled it. And I was worried that we were reaching the end of the month, and I couldn't bank on the fact that this upcoming weekend would have electricity at the right time slot. So I decided to stream at the next available time, and because they don't really warn you ahead of time enough, I saw that there would be electricity on Monday, so I just took it, because I'm like, I'm just going to take the first available spot. So Monday was it. So I'm glad quite a few people showed up to hang out, because I was concerned that the Monday afternoon for the Americans might not be the ideal time. But there's always the VOD, and I made sure to only use like copyright-free music this time. Unfortunately, the Christmas stream, a lot of that got claimed. I have to get rid of this as well. A lot of that got claimed, sadly, but this time it should be okay. Let's do this, and then do this, and then just make it lighter. There we go, and I think, let me just get rid of that. Otherwise, I think we're done. Apply, close gap. There we go. Clear. There we go, now we're done. No, we're not. Now we're done. There we go. Turn on that. Turn on that. Turn off. What is on? There we go. Put that there. She doesn't really have like highlights, but I think I'm going to give her one just because it looks weird without it. Put them above the line art. And we'll put another one down here. There we go. And I'll draw like a horrible MS Paint background, because that's what the entire show looks like. Not that one. Not that one. This one. It's got like this terrible like cyan. Oh, hold on, I've got a pop-up telling me to renew my antivirus program that I haven't renewed since I got this machine. Like that. And this horrible green. No, not this one. this one and put it to that. And just do like, just do that. There we go. Gorgeous. There we go. And now I'm just going to turn off my tablet. So if you hear this, this is my computer, not yours. There we go. And then we'll just maybe chat for like 10 minutes more or so. And then I will say good night for the night. Because I tend to do that because, I don't know, she's looking so sugoi. I've got that problem where I like round numbers, so it's like, oh well, it's 11. That's not a round number. That doesn't have a 0 at the end of it. So now I like hanging out for a little bit after I'm done drawing, just to kind of round off the number. Things are incredibly better compared to my 1 year stay at Somaliland during decade and a half back. I don't know what that is in reference of. I think I was drawing when that conversation was happening. 128 is a round number in my heart. We're on the same time zone. Are you in Europe? Because I know that there are a few European countries who are the same time zone as I am. I'm working with a Bulgarian animation studio, and for the most part, we're actually the exact same time zone, except when they have daylight savings time, which we don't have daylight savings time because we don't need it. But it means that Bulgaria is sometimes an hour ahead of me, and sometimes it's the exact same time zone. So I'm guessing it's around there, because I know that England is 2 hours behind us, and I think Germany is the same time, because when I watch the Wacken live stream, it's the exact same time for me. So whenever I look at the acts and when they're performing, like whatever it says on the program, it's the exact same time for me. So that's great for me, because then I'm like, oh, okay, who was it? Uriah Heep is playing at 12 in the afternoon, and then it's 12 in the afternoon for me as well as in Germany, and then I can just watch and not have to do any conversion in my head. Oh, you live in Greece? Oh, okay, interesting. Czechia? Oh, nice. What did you think of Smosh's attempt at animation channel Shut Up Cartoons? I didn't look into it much, but I know that there's a video covering it and like talking about like why it failed and things like that. From what I know about Smosh, because I didn't really watch it back in the day, I was watching Spoonie and the Nostalgia Critic. Smosh became extremely corporate, and the people who like bought the channel didn't really understand like how what like a YouTube channel was. So they made like super corporate skits and things, and it just didn't gel with what Smosh was originally. And I'm guessing that happened to their cartoon as well. That's just me guessing. Like that's what I think would have happened. But I'll have to watch a video covering it and talking about it in detail. In Somaliland around late 2000s, we'd have electricity between 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Oh, that sucks. Yeah. So South Africa is GMT +2? Yes. Wait, Bulgaria has daylight savings times? I thought only the US. No. A lot of, quite a few countries have it. Bulgaria has it, and I only know that because it screwed up my time when I was working on Unicorn Warriors. For a while, we were the exact same time, and then daylight savings time hit for them, and so I had to wake up an hour earlier than usual because I had to be there for the dailies, because we did animation review every single day to make sure that we were delivering on quality. So, I mean, I guess they had to get up an hour early every single day as well, but my clock didn't change. So I had to, I literally had to get up an hour earlier every single day, and I'm not a morning person. I've got that thing where I struggle to get to sleep at night, and I struggle to wake up in the morning, because my internal clock is just really screwed up. So that was really, really unpleasant. Getting up like really early so I could be there for the dailies. Do you know they're doing okay? I'm aware that COVID is still hammering them. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from them. I haven't heard anything about the studio regarding that. I'm working with them again at the start of February. It's just a short project this time. But from what I've heard, I think they're doing okay. I mean, I don't want to ask because it's kind of personal, and I mean, it's a job. It's a professional relationship. So I don't think it's really on brand to be like, hey, I heard you guys were struggling. Is that true? But I'm not sure. I don't really know. I hope they're doing okay though. I haven't heard anything about anyone in the studio itself really struggling, so I hope it's going okay. We're doing fine, by the way. Like, South Africa's doing fine. Earlier you mentioned something about the National Geographic being shit now. I'm interested. Do you have time to explain? I don't have time to explain, but long story short, National Geographic has fired all of their employed writers. They don't employ any writers now. They only do like contract hires. I think it is like contractual hires for writers. There are no in-house writers for National Geographic anymore. And in a move that I tweeted about it and I got banned from Twitter for a day because I was so angry. National Geographic is discontinuing their physical magazine sales. And it's because they felt that the profits for magazine sales was not high enough to continue publications. So National Geographic, which has been published since 1830, is no longer putting out physical magazines. And that is a decision directly made by CEOs working for Disney. And like I said, it made me so angry. I was tweeting about it and got banned from Twitter for like a day. So, very, very long, angry rant, as short as possible. That's the situation, and it's awful, and I hate it, and it makes me so angry. And like, there's as much as I like to rant in the videos I make, there's not much that actually gets my blood boiling. I don't really get physically angry about things very often, but like the handling of National Geographic by Disney is like one of those things that it makes me spit food just because I get so angry, because it's such a disrespect. I can't fathom treating something like the National Geographic magazine, which is older than any person walking the earth today, and deciding that you're no longer gonna make it because of profits. Like that, the level of disrespect and disregard for value is, it's a level that I cannot comprehend, because I would have to be a different person than the person I am to on any level understand that kind of decision making. Like, it is so against who I am as a person at my core that I cannot. I think that's why it makes me so angry, because it's so at odds with like my personal values and how I feel about certain things, and like how much I value information and open communication and archiving and things like that. It is so against how I feel about a lot of things that it makes me furious. It reminds me of Australia no longer releasing physical media of DVDs. Isn't that only Disney as well? I think it's only Disney as well that's decided that they're no longer releasing DVDs in Australia. Which again, Disney is awful. And also, but Disney's always been weird with their physical releases. Like, Disney, I think it was Eisner. I forget the man's first name. I think it's because there's like Eisner, and then there's Iger, and then there's the other guy who's also got a similar name, and it's all too similar for me. I struggle with names. Please have different names. At least I can understand Eisner and Katzenberg. Those are two names that are different enough so I remember them, but please stop it with all these similar names. Anyway, Eisner had this very weird mentality that releasing Disney films on VHS and DVD too much would damage the value of the film. So that is why whenever Disney put out movies on DVD and Blu-ray, they would be like a very limited window, and that's why they had all these editions like the Black Diamond edition, the Platinum edition, the gold edition, the special edition. That's why Disney did that, because they only released their films in very limited runs, because Eisner believed doing like mass releases of their movies would damage the Disney brand. So them like deciding they're no longer releasing physical media in Australia, it's extremely shitty. But it's almost like, it's a lateral move from what they were doing anyway. Physical releases are slowly dying. I don't think so. I think that a lot of the streaming services wanted to, but I think at the same time, they like money too much, and it's an income revenue, and printing discs is extremely cheap. And they're like dedicated people who specifically make discs, because I follow Vinegar Syndrome on YouTube, and Vinegar Syndrome puts things on Blu-ray, like the most garbage trash movies you've ever seen in your life. The things that Red Letter Media covers on their channel, like that level of quality, Vinegar Syndrome releases on Blu-ray in like beautiful 4K restorations, and they just released that for physical purchase, and it's kind of amazing. I love Vinegar Syndrome. They're so insane. I love that that's a thing that exists. Just this company printing discs of this utter garbage just because they care enough about the trash to make sure that it's preserved, and that it's preserved in like ultra 4K quality. And it's like, but why? But it's great, and I'm really, really happy that exists. The remakes devalue the Disney brand more than anything. Well, that's the thing, like, and then Eisner completely backtracked on what he felt in the early 2000s, and that's why all the straight-to-DVD sequels happened. So Eisner did a complete 180 on what he felt about the entire situation in the first place. He's a weird dude. Some of the things he did while working for Disney, he saved that company, make no mistake, but he also did some of the weirdest things there. Like, there's the famous one where he took his teenage son to Disneyland, and his son wasn't really interested in anything because he's a teenage boy. And Eisner was like, why are there no rides at Disneyland for teenagers? We should have this horror, alien-inspired sci-fi ride that's gonna scare everyone. It's like, just a really strange decision-making going on there. I read Disney War a few years back. Apparently Eisner had to fight to release anything physical because the old men just flat out refused. Yeah, it's something like that. Was it then not Eisner? It was probably the old men then, if you say that? I thought it was Eisner. I'm pretty sure it was Eisner, but I'm talking from memory. And yes, I'm terrible at remembering names, but I tend to be pretty good when it comes to random trivia and movie release dates. I can't remember people's names, but I can remember movie release dates like really accurately. But I believe it was Eisner who's at first had a problem with physical releases, and I think he just completely changed his mind later on, because I just think Eisner is a weird guy, and I think he did a lot of stuff like that. I don't know, video game industry seems to want to kill physical releases at least. Yeah, but video games, it's kind of a different story. It's not the same industry, and it doesn't really have the same audience. There is overlap, but I wouldn't consider the two to be indicative of each other. I think that is two separate discussions. Now, I'm the same way. The details will get muddled in my head, but the story sticks. Yeah, it's like, and it's rough, because I'm like, I don't remember this man's name, but I remember that The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, came out in 1982. Was it 82? It was 82, not 81. I hope I'm not making a fool of myself. Hang on. I'm sure The Thing was 1982. Let's double check. Yes, I'm right. See, so The Thing was 1982, Close Encounters is 1977, and Jurassic Park is 1993, I believe. Yes. And 2001: A Space Odyssey was 1967. 2010, the year we made contact, I think it's 1984 or 5. I think it's 5. Like, that kind of thing. I can just remember But you ask me somebody's name, like a person that I've had actual real life conversations with, and I'm like, I have no idea. They told me their name, I have no memory of it. I was about to make a joke, but I have heard that there has been some movies that got day one patches in movie theaters to correct audio issues, and like, so there's some overlap with games. You know what, you're right. You know what, that's a good point. Speaking of which, I still need to watch Cats 2019. I have like a feeling that the same way that I had the best time watching Prometheus in theaters because it was so bad, I think I would have a similar reaction to Cats. I think that if I watch the Cats movie, it'll be a level of bad that like makes it one of the most entertaining watching experiences I'll have. But the problem, somebody's screaming at chat saying no, don't. The problem is, I worry I'll cringe too much. I that's the one part. And I don't use the term cringe lightly. I worry that I will get such bad secondhand embarrassment for a lot of it that it'll like cancel out the enjoyment of how bad it is. So that's one thing I'm concerned about. If it wasn't a musical, I would be all in because it sounds so garbage. It's like I absolutely want to watch it. It sounds terrible. I need to see it. But the fact that it's a musical, especially a musical that I rather like, the Cats musical, it's not that it's good. I just grew up with it. I had the stage play recording on VHS. And I like the music. I think the music's really good. It makes no sense. Doesn't matter. It looks cool and it sounds good. That's all I care about. So seeing like a horrible bastardization of it might be not painful, but like embarrassing. Because like I know what it's supposed to sound like, and I know who these characters are supposed to be. So it'll be like watching a horrible like preschool play of something. So I don't know. There's two possibilities here. There's a possibility that it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'll highly enjoy it for all the wrong reasons. Or I'll have such secondhand embarrassment I won't make it past the first song. Those are the only two outcomes of the situation, I feel. Have I seen Gattaca? I saw Gattaca when I was like 16. So I almost want to say no, because I don't think I really processed that movie at all. I think it was way too above my head. And I think it's one that I need to rewatch. It's like one of those where it's like, yeah, I've seen that movie, but if I had like a reaction channel on YouTube, I could do that movie and call it first time reacting, because I have zero memory of any of it. I know what the plot's about, but only because I've read like summaries of it. I don't think I knew what the plot was about when I watched it at the time at all. I heard Cats was an animation nightmare because the director refused to let the actors use mocap suits, so the CGI was all rotoscope. Oh, that sucks. It's physically uncomfortable to watch, like not cringe-worthy bad, more like, am I allowed to be seeing this bad? No, you don't understand. Saying things like that just makes me want to watch it. Like, I just told you I have this morbid fascination with like exploitation movies, and I love Red Letter Media, I love Mystery Science Theater. My favorite cartoon growing up was The Angry Beavers. And The Angry Beavers had an entire episode dedicated to terrible B-movies. There's an entire episode, and it was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And to this day, I think it holds up very well. But as a child, that was literally, I had never seen a cartoon that funny before. And I think that's like where my deep appreciation of terrible movies came from, is from The Angry Beavers. So, like, hearing things like that, it's like, dude, I've willingly watched the Mystery Science Theater episode of Beast of Yucca Flats. And I have, to this day, not found a movie that's worse than the Beast of Yucca Flats. That is like top tier. No movie has surpassed that point. Angry Beavers, yeah, Angry Beavers was so good. I still have, like, a Daggett plushie somewhere. Like, Nickelodeon barely did merchandise in the 90s. There's like an entire reason why. It's quite interesting, but I'll go into it another time. But I actually have one of the original Daggett plushies, and it's like, I'm so proud. It's like, I have this. I'm so proud I have this. And when I was visiting my friend in America, I made sure to buy like a box set of the show, because it's so good. It's legitimately funny. To this day, it's really funny. My physical science teacher back in high school had us watch it during a slow day. That must have been difficult though, because that's, from what I remember, it is one of those movies that like forces you to pay attention. Gattaca, not the Angry Beavers. Gattaca is like one of those movies that forces you to pay attention to what's going on. So I imagine watching it in a school setting is difficult. Just because, you know, it's school. I haven't heard the Angry Beavers in a long time. I'm a little younger than you, but I grew up on 90s media. Yeah, no man, Angry Beavers is really good. Like, it's legitimately funny. And I was a big Invaderism fan as well. But you can see like the Angry Beavers to Invaderism pipeline. You watched it in German, okay. Let me see what everybody else is talking about. It is now 11:30. So I think we'll, like, I'll answer one or two questions and then I'm gonna call it for the night. Shout out to Our Real Monsters. Oh, that's another one. Our Real Monsters was so good. That was another like top tier cartoon. I was obsessed with that show for a long while. Oh no, Seabuff, you lost your chance to end the stream on the round number. I should go until 12. No, I can't. My throat will die and I need to drink water. I've got Coke because I'm severely sleep deprived today, but I don't think drinking more Coke at 11:30 at night is an intelligent choice when I'm already on very low sleep, because I'm quite susceptible to caffeine and sugar and things like that. It tends to hit me quite hard. Just any cartoon with Tim Curry is mwah. Oh yeah, I agree. Like Angry Thornberries. The Wild Thornberries was very good, but Wild Thornberries had like the full package. Like the concept is really good, the episodes were really interesting, and they had like actual animal facts in them, and you had Tim Curry doing Nigel Thornberry, and it was like classic Klasky and Scoopo, and it's just a really good show. And like growing up in the 90s, like that show, even though I think it's early 2000s, a lot of its like aesthetic is very, very much of that part of the 90s. It's like Lion King, The Wild Thornberries. What was the other one that kind of tied into it? I just thought of it. Jurassic Park. Like that entire Legends of the Hidden Temple. That was it. Like all of that. There was a very specific aesthetic that was like for a year or two in the 90s. And like The Wild Thornberries ties into that. You refuse to go to sleep until I do. I was probably the only kid that watched Doug for Slice of Life. The thing is, we only got the Disney Channel in like the mid-2000s. So a lot of the like 90s and early 2000 Disney stuff we didn't get. But we had Cartoon Network. And we had Nickelodeon quite shortly after that. So we didn't have Nickelodeon in the early 90s, but we got it around 98, 99. And then it aired like reruns of things like Rugrats and things like that. It just in time for like the Rugrats movie to come out, because I remember the Rugrats movie coming out, and I remember I had watched Rugrats before the movie came out. So it was definitely late 90s when we got Nickelodeon, because I was watching like Legends of the Hidden Temple, all that, Kenan and Kel, Wild Thornberries, Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold, I didn't like it so much as the time, but I watched it again as an adult. It's actually much better watching it as an adult than watching it as a child. What else? Like there's all the shows that people know, but there's a select few of them where it's like these are the ones that I actively grew up with as a child, right? And then you become a teenager and you still watch cartoons if you're somebody like me, but they don't hit the same as like, oh, these are the ones I grew up with specifically, even though, you know, you're technically still a child as a teenager, but I don't know, it just hits differently. Did you at least get Are You Afraid of the Dark? No, we did not. We didn't get Are You Afraid of the Dark. We did get Goosebumps, but not Are You Afraid of the Dark. This is the first stream I've ever watched and enjoyed. I hope to do again sometime. Well, thanks for hanging out. Okay, 1 more minute. Then it's going to be 20 to midnight. So, one more question. Send it in. See who gets here first. I'm making it a race. And Oh, you know what? I'll save this drawing after after the stream just to avoid it crashing again. Okay, Jim says, growing up with something hits different. Avatar will always have a special place in my heart. Yeah, see, Avatar never aired for us. I didn't even know what Avatar was until I was in animation college, and my friend, or friend at the time, was like super invested in seeing the final season, and I just never heard of it before. Like, I had no idea what it was. Yes, I know. I watch more cartoons now than I did as a kid. My child was Stargate. I mean, that's a pretty awesome childhood, let's be honest. Like, that's a really good childhood to have as well. She found my whole plan. 40 is a round number. Yes, and now it's 40. So I am going to say goodnight. My phone just buzzed me. They changed the electricity again, but luckily it's good news and they've suspended it. So I'll have electricity for the rest of the night until tomorrow. So that's good. We go here, go to end, transition. And I will see you guys next month if the Patreon tier is still held, which I believe it is. I plan to record the audio for the next Superman episode tomorrow, and then I'll get straight to editing. And I don't know how long it'll take because, again, I'm afraid of what the length of that thing will be. But as soon as I'm done editing it, it'll be up for patrons, and then it'll be public for you guys. And I know there's a scene in an upcoming episode that a lot of people wanted to know my opinion on, so that's going to be in the next part. Yes, I know. Why are you buzzing at me, phone? Relax, I'll get to you in a second. I have to say goodnight first. Anyway, my phone is begging for attention. So I'm going to say goodnight, and I hope to see you guys around next time. Sorry about the Monday stream. I was just afraid of not giving you guys a stream, and I frankly didn't want to risk it. So, bye guys.